I appreciate Coach G, and first of all, I'd like to thank you again for doing this, and I think it's just such a great tool for coaches like me not to go crazy during this COVID-19 dilemma we're dealing with, and I hope everybody out there is doing well and their families are well. And I'm not a big guy. I don't love giving a bunch of talks about culture and program building necessarily, because I do think every program's a little different. But a couple of years ago, I got asked to speak at the University of Alabama, and they kind of dictated to me what they wanted me to speak about. And so, I came up with this little blueprint for success, sort of seven secrets to building a successful program. And as Justin was saying, I've been a head coach at two places, and two very different places. One was at Jack Britt High School in Fayetteville. I was the first head coach there. They were a 4A school. My first head coaching job, and I thought I knew everything, like a lot of the young guys do. And that first year we didn't have any seniors in the building. I only had one kid. I tell this story all the time. I only had one kid on our team that was old enough to drive, and that's a true story. And so it was a very different, starting a program from the ground up. Well, after 12 years there, I took the head coaching job at Scotland High School here in North Carolina, and that was a more established program. They just came off the state championship in 2011, but prior to 2011, they'd only been in one state championship game in the 50-year history of the school. So while they'd been successful, they weren't necessarily turning out, state championships or conference championships every year. So, but anyway, I just put this together. What I think is really important, guys. I want to feel like you can find something in here, if not everything, but there's going to be one thing that if you take back and implement in your program, I think it can help you be successful. When I put this together, I said to myself, why does some guy in California, who's Richard Bailey? Who is this guy? What has he done? Why should I listen to him? I know if I was listening to somebody, I want to know a little bit of why should I listen to this dude? Has he won any games? Has he been successful? And so I did put this together a little bit, and this isn't out of arrogance, but just a little bit of background. I've been, I'm 217 and 62 as a head coach, over 20 years of doing this, and I've been blessed, obviously, and 101 and 27 in conference games during that time. We've had 6 state championship appearances. I've been in 10 regional championships, and we won 12 conference championships at the schools I've been at. So I've been pretty successful as a head coach, and hopefully what I'm going to give you today will give you some of the same, some of the things that I've used to be successful. And again, but if you want to know how to win a state championship, you may not want to listen to me, because I've lost all 6 of those state championship games. I'm sort of the Marv Levy of North Carolina football. But you got to keep getting there to win one. And right now I'm 0-6, so I kind of left that out of the PowerPoint. But anyway, I'm starting with a couple things. We're going to start first of all with fostering administrative support. The number one thing you got to do when you take a job or get a job is you better get the people that run the school building on your side. You and the principal and the athletic director have to build a relationship. And if you don't have a good relationship with those people, you're not going to be in that job very long. I firmly believe that. And sometimes you've got to meet them on their ground a little bit. And you can do the whole my way or the highway, but it's my experience, you're going to get asked to leave eventually if you do that. So things I think is important. One is be visible and volunteer. Volunteer to do things. Volunteer your football team to clean up the cafeteria. Volunteer your football team to, take part in any kind of events you can do, and volunteer yourself, whatever it is. Be a visible person. Be in the cafeteria. Be in the parking lot. If you're supposed to be on duty, be on duty. And so, be those things. Go to other sporting events. You try to be visible. Go to basketball games. Watch your kids play football. Run track. I think it's important that you be out there and be visible. And these days with social media, it's important for you to be out there on social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, and sort of reaching out in that capacity. Don't always have your hand out, man. The worst thing you can do is the only time you ever talk to your principal or AD is have your hand out wanting something from those guys. I can promise you that does not endear yourself. You need to find ways to get things done yourself, fundraise yourself. Try to get as much as you can without having to stick your hand out. That doesn't mean essential things. Essential things the administration should handle, but there are times you want to talk to your principal and it not be always asking for a favor, not always trying to get some kid out of trouble or trying to get somebody's, I don't know what the right word is, but you just got to don't always be me, that kind of thing. That's important. Don't just bring them problems, bring them solutions. You have something going wrong, or you don't feel like you like the way something's going within the school building, you better bring them some solutions. I tell my assistant coaches that all the time. The idiots in the stands can tell you what's going wrong, but I pay coaches to tell me how to fix it. I mean, we all know, okay, we're not throwing the ball very well. Well, what can we do to improve at that? Have some solutions. Well, when it's administratively, if you're having a problem with a teacher, your kids being in certain classes, or just your own personal schedule, you need to bring the solutions. How can him helping you benefit the entire program? I came to my principal this year and I told him, I said, look, I need to be in the weight room. I'm a social studies teacher. Forever I've taught social studies. I've taught civics. But I told the principal, I thought for our culture and our football program right now, I needed to be in the weight room so I could come in contact with those kids year around, not just during football season. And you may not know this, but Scotland County is literally the poorest county in the state of North Carolina. Us and Robinson County go back and forth. Our entire school is on free and reduced lunch. We have a lot of kids that need guidance. They need a father figure. They need a friend, whatever. But they need somebody in their lives helping to direct them that's a positive influence on them. So, and our principal, hey, I told him the benefits of me being able to be on top of these kids year round, being involved, help them in their classes, help them, get ready for the ACT or whatever it was. And he was all on board. Next thing you know, man, they got me in the weight room. So don't just bring them problems, bring them solutions. Guys, try to hire good teachers who are good coaches. Don't bring a guy, and first of all, I firmly believe this. If you cannot teach, you can't be a coach, not a good coach, because coaching is teaching. And if you can't teach in a classroom, you're not going to be able to teach out there on the football field either. If you can't differentiate instructions for your students in class, you're probably not going to do it on the football field. If you're not going to be organized, I've been doing this 29 years, and I've rarely seen good coaches that weren't also good teachers. Whether it's a PE teacher or science or whatever it was, those things go hand in hand. I've seen a lot of bad coaches or average coaches who are also bad teachers in the school building. Don't bring those people to your principal. If you're going to hire a new coach, you make sure that coach understands the importance of being a teacher. At high school level, big check, little check. Your big check is teaching. Your little check is coaching. So you better take care of that teaching stuff. Not to mention the fact you don't want the principal coming to you all the time about a coach on your staff not doing what he's supposed to do. You have enough problems worrying about your players. You don't need to be worrying about your coaches. So when you bring a coach to the principal, make sure he's a good teacher. Do your homework on that and make sure he's going to be good in the classroom as well as on the football field. Be the support. Now, this one's tough sometimes, guys. Be supportive of administrative decisions, even if you don't agree with them. Now, that does not mean you can't express your dissatisfaction. But at the end of the day, it's like being an assistant coach. My assistant coaches are not always going to agree with everything I do. But when we go out on that football field, they better act like it. They better pretend they do. In our office, amongst one another, we can have our disagreements. But when we go out there, we're going to put together, we're going to have one voice about what's going on. And we're all going to buy in. Well, that's the way it is with the administration. At the end of the day, they're going to make some decisions. And sometimes, yes, it could hurt your football program. They can suspend a kid that's your best football player and you don't think he should be suspended. Well, you can voice the disapproval of that. But when you go back and talk to your players, you better support that administrative decision. And so I think that's important that you don't go die on some hill. I tell people all the time, don't throw the keys on the principal's desk unless you're really ready for him to take them keys from you. So be supportive of the administration, even if you don't agree with them. Doesn't mean, again, don't voice your disapproval, but you've got to be careful there. And then use the mold of your exam to your advantage. And I'm going to tell you, I've been around schools, all of us, we've been around schools our entire lives. There's a mole in every school. There is somebody in your school that if you go and tell them something, they're going to run to the administration. Use that to your advantage. That way you can complain and you're not really complaining. You can mention to somebody this mole that you have, and you mention something that you're not happy with, and they go and present it to the principal. And that way you're not the one crying all the time. You're just mentioning something in passing. And next thing you know, it gets back to the administration, but it's something you wanted the administration to know about. And so use the mold to your advantage. And I promise you, every school I've ever been at has one of those. Some guy, some teacher, some assistant principal, somebody in your school that's going to run back to the principal or AD, and you can use that to help you if you know how to manipulate it a little bit. So use the mold to your advantage. It's something I've learned through the years, and it's come in handy a few times. Number 2, year-round strength program. Without a doubt, man, you've got to lift weights. You can tell. I always tell people in pregame, I look at the rear ends of the other team we're playing, and that sounds kind of bad. I'm looking at a bunch of 16, 17-year-olds rear ends. If they don't have rear ends, we're going to beat their butts. If they haven't been squatting and lifting hard in the weight room, we're going to win that game almost every time. And so you better hire somebody that's passionate about it. I've been fortunate. I've had some good strength coaches. And until this year, I've never been in the weight room. In 29 years of doing this, I've only been in the weight room this semester. I've always had strength coaches, people that's what they went to school to do. They're passionate about it. They love it. And I love the weight room, but I've always kind of deferred that to people. And I'll tell you why I did it. Is it is tough to be the rear end during third period weight training and then go out on the football field and be the rear end again. And sometimes I do think it helps to have somebody to offset you with that. So hire somebody who's passionate about it and then let them do it. And I tell our strength guys, I don't care what you're doing there as long as we're getting stronger. And build athletes, not bodybuilders. I want to work on explosive movements. We want to do a bunch of cleaning. We've done Olympic lifting. We want our guys to be explosive and build explosion. So we work on all those kind of things. We do 3 phases of lifting. We have in season. We lift on game days. And I'm going to be honest with you, we lift on game days for the sole purpose that I can tell them baseball and basketball players that we lift on game days. That's the fact. We lift. So the first time I hear a baseball player say, we can't lift today, it's game day, I'm going to say, we lift. Football players lift on game days. And so I don't want to be lying when I tell them that. And so we lift on game days. We do an upper body lift on game days. These guys are 16, 17 years old. They can't lift at 12 o'clock and be ready and recovered by 7 o'clock that night. I don't believe that's the case. So, lift your guys on game days. You ain't got to kill them, but I would encourage you to lift on game days because that'll help you with those other athletes. Off season, we get stronger. I tell people in the off season, that's when you want to move some heavy weight if you can. And we literally during the winter, we'll lift 4 days a week and only run 1 day. Now we do plyometric warm-ups and core stuff every day, but we lift 4, run 1 until after spring break. Then after spring break, we lift 3, run 2 days a week. And so that's sort of getting us in condition, getting us ready for summer. But we're going to basically from December until about April, we're going to lift 4 days a week and just run once. And we're going to concentrate on moving some big weight, try to get. And then during the summer, get in shape, get ready for the season. We do a lot more running during the summer. I'm one of those weird coaches. We do not run at the end of football practice. We run during practice. And we practice fast, but we don't run at the end of practice. We don't. I don't say, hey, total line, let's start running gassers. We don't do that. If you practice the right way, I don't think you need to do that. And I've also never heard anybody play us that felt like they beat us because they were in better shape than us. And so, get in shape during the summer, get in shape prior to the season, and then during the season, run during practice. And I think you'll be better off. And I tell them during the summer, attendance isn't mandatory. You cannot make summer workouts mandatory, but I tell them neither is being on the team, and accountability is mandatory. If you got to go see your grandmother in Philadelphia for a week, that's great, but I need to know beforehand. Don't let me come to a summer workout and you not be there and me think you're at home watching the Flintstones. If you're not there, I need to know why you're not there. And it's okay to be gone. I tell them that. But by the same token, if other people are there and you play the same position, all I know is they're getting a little bit ahead of you. So, without trying to put too much pressure on them, because I want them to have time to be kids, and we got dead periods during the summer in North Carolina that we can't do anything anyway, and I encourage them to take their vacations then. But if we're up there lifting, I expect them to be up there lifting and running with us unless they're out of town or doing something that I knew prior to. And so, again, attendance isn't mandatory. I do reward them for being there. We have summer heat winners that, they get out of some conditioning during those first couple weeks of football practice. So we reward them, give them little incentives, but obviously we cannot mandate it because the state of North Carolina won't let you do that. Third thing, quality assistant coaches. Guys, you're not going to be successful unless you surround yourself with good people. I've been blessed. I worked for some really good football coaches, Donnie Kiefer, Dean Saffos, a couple of guys that come to my mind right off the top of my head were great mentors to me. You better hire quality assistant football coaches. You can't coach them all. What I tell people is utilize everybody's best qualities. You're going to have, if a guy's got a background in being a wide receiver coach, make him wide receiver coach. Try to utilize everybody's best qualities. Now, I do believe this. My first job, I was a wide receiver and defensive back in high school. I played a little bit of baseball in college, didn't play football. My first job, Donnie Kiefer hired me, and I was an offensive defensive line coach. I didn't know anything about those two positions, but I looked at a bunch of videos. I talked to Coach Kiefer about it. He sent me to some camps, and, I learned it. If you can coach, you can coach anything. But I do think you're better off putting a square peg in a square hole. Don't try to force somebody to do something that they don't have a background in unless you absolutely got to. Kind of try to utilize everybody's best qualities. Don't just hire yes guys. Now, I will tell you this. We got 16, and some people are going to go, 16? We got 16 paid coaches at Scotland High School. But at Jack Britt, I had 7. So I've done it where I only had a limited number of guys. And I don't need 16 guys that challenge me at Scotland. I really don't. But you better have a core of 6, 7 guys that are willing to speak up and challenge what you're doing in your program. You can't hire just a bunch of guys that are going to say yes to everything you do, because you're not going to grow as a coach. And you only get better when people challenge what you're doing. It's like I tell my athletes, I'm not going to coach you to be average. I'm going to coach you to be great. And in order to be great, you got to be willing to hear some criticism. And you've got to be willing to change, adapt, sort out the good from the bad. And then, you got to learn from it. And I'm that way with my, assistant coaches. I want them to challenge. I don't want them to just say yes to everything I'm doing. But I also tell them, like I said earlier, don't just bring me a problem. You bring me a solution. You be willing to help me implement whatever it is you're doing. I love the wide receiver coach. Now, them wide receiver coaches, they'll bring you all kinds of fancy pass routes, double moves. All 5 are getting out in the routes, and they ain't talked to me yet about protection. My thing is, well, how are we going to protect this? And so sometimes you better make sure that if you're going to bring an idea to me, you better bring a solution on how we're going to do it and make sure you can sell me on it. Don't just hire yes guys. I really, really believe in this. If you're going to hire somebody, O-line and linebacker, if you're a 3-4 coach, and I have been that before, and O-line, D-line, if you're a 4-3, I think they're the 2 most important. They're the 2 most important guys. You better have an O-line coach that you trust, because if you're not good up front, you're going to have a hard time winning football games. I don't care what level it is. So if you can find one of them, you better value those, and you better lock them away. You better do whatever it is, buy them Christmas presents, whatever you need to do. You need to lock those dudes away. And defensively, again, 3-4, I think is that linebacker coach. There's a little bit more to being a linebacker coach in a 3-4, I think. In a 4-3, you better have a great D-line coach, somebody that can teach squeezing, wrong arming, all that kind of stuff. That is really important in a 4-3 defense. And I'm a big 4-3 guy, or 4-2-5, whatever we want to call it. But if you're a 4-man front team, you better have a great D-line coach. If you can find one of those guys, you do whatever you can to keep those kind of guys. Let your coaches coach and make personnel decisions. I've been doing this again 20 years. There's probably been about 3 times in 20 years that I've gone to an assistant coach and said, you've got to play this kid. One of them was this year. I had a DB coach that didn't want to play a kid because he was playing some offense too, but we were just not very good in the secondary times. And I finally went to him and said, look, man, you've got to play this kid. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. Next game, I better see him on the field. That's only happened 3 or 4 times in my career, because I think you undermine the coaches when you do that. So, let your coaches coach. You hired them to do a job. You believed them enough to hire them. Well, let them do a job. Now, if a coach isn't a great – though we all got some coaches that we don't think are as good as some other ones. Put them in charge of things that aren't that important necessarily. I mean, I hate to say that. I don't want to diminish anybody's position, but there are certain positions that you can get away with less of a coach. And it depends on the offense you're running or the defense you're running. And it depends on your situation. I coached at a 1A school, and it was me and Coach Kiefer and one other guy, and literally the other guy was there some days, not there the next. It was basically two of us. And so, you know, sometimes you gotta let people coach things whether you want to or not, but then let them coach it and try to let them make the personnel decisions. Don't undermine your assistant coaches. You can talk to them about it, hopefully lead them to where you want them to go. But at the end of the day, I think if you dictate to them who has to play, you're going to lose their support. And the most important thing is to have your assistant coaches support you. So just remember that. And you better hire coaches who will invest in building relationships. I tell my coaches, if you're not willing to be there all summer and do all the things that we ask the players to do, then you can't coach for me. You can't show up August 1st and all of a sudden yelling at that kid and you ain't been there all summer. He's going to be like, where in the hell you been? How you coming yelling at me and you haven't been here? And so I tell our guys, if you're not willing to build relationships, take kids home, bring them to your house and buy them, get your wife to cook them spaghetti or something one day a week during the football season or something, then you probably can't coach for me. And you probably aren't in it for the right reasons, because I believe players will let you coach them hard if they think, one, that you love them first, man. If you're going to coach them hard, you got to love them hard. And when you do that, they will let you coach them. But if they don't think, and they can sense a fraud now, don't think your kids can't pick up on who the real invested coaches are and who's just there drawing a check or wants to wear that polo on Friday night. And you need to surround yourself with people that are investing in building relationships with players, because they're going to be better coaches. And you're going to have a lot less problems with those coach-player relationships, because the last thing you want to do is have to be referee and coach and player conflict. As a head coach, you have to do that some, but if you'll find coaches that will build relationships, you don't have to do that near as much. Fourth thing, now they're getting to some stuff maybe that you can use maybe a little bit along the way here, the next couple things. Discipline, guys, I think everybody's got an idea about discipline. Here's my biggest thing. Limit how many rules you have and then enforce the ones you got. Let the kids come up with some of the rules. You'll be surprised. They'll be tougher on the players than you would be. Create a tribal council leadership team. That's what we have here. I basically taken some players from each grade level, created we call it a tribal council here. We have a lot of Native Americans in this area, and we call it a tribal council. It's kind of honor to be on that group. And I come to them about everything. Hey, guys, you want music at practice, music in the weight room? What are we going to wear during, the game thing? Let them make a lot of decisions about stuff you don't care about. That's what I tell people. Let them make what they think is important decisions, but I don't care what we wear on Friday night. So let them decide. If they want to wear the black jerseys instead of blue jerseys, wear the black jerseys. They feel like they have a say-so. And let them determine what some of the punishments are when your kids make mistakes, because then they'll help support you. They'll be like, hey, we came up with these rules and that kind of thing. And it's a lot better when the kids are holding each other accountable and you're not having to do it all the time. So don't have a lot of rules. Enforce the ones you have. But remember this, and I think it's important to learn. I think most coaches know it. Treating everybody the same is not always fair. That's the biggest misconception, is if you treat everybody the same, that somehow is being fair. I think you got to be concrete with certain things, but you better be flexible about some others. Guys, we have a very impoverished football team. There is some legitimate times in which I have kids that can't be somewhere because their family is mandating they have to do something. Watch their little brothers and sisters, go visit their grandmother in a hospital somewhere. Just there's things that come up, especially when you're in an impoverished area, that sometimes, I'm not saying that there's still not punishments for those, if you have to miss, there's still repercussions for that. But I do think you've got to treat everybody fair, and it's not always treating everybody the same. Now, the punishments are the same for, if you're late to practice, you're late to practice. Everybody's going to get the same punishment. If in our program, if you miss practice for any reason, you're not going to, if any reason, you're not going to start Friday night. And if I didn't know about it, it was unexcused, you're not going to play Friday night. I don't care who it is. If I ever step on our football field at Scotland High School and I have no idea where you're at, you're not going to play on Friday night. And if it happens twice, you're not going to be on the football team. That is a non-negotiable rule that I have. And I'll say that again. If I step on the practice field and I have no idea where you're at, because with today's modern communication between, Twitter and Facebook and every kid in our program has my phone number. there's zero reason, and I tell them all the time, don't send word with another player. I want to talk to you, get a text from you, or talk to somebody in your family if you're going to miss. But if I don't know where you're at, you're not going to play Friday night. Now, if something comes up and I excuse it, then you're not going to start Friday night. And I tell people all the time, if you're a starter, that might be one series. If you don't play a whole bunch anyway, then you're probably not going to play at all, because what is me telling him he's not going to play one series? He wasn't going to play anyway. And so it goes back to, if I try to treat them all the same, well, the starter's used to starting and playing the whole game. The guy that never touches the field, there's no punishment for him to sit out of a game or to miss a series or whatever it'll be. So you got to be, fair, but it's not always going to be treating everybody the same. And then finally, or a couple more things, practice organization. Guys, you got to be organized in practice. And the number one thing I can tell you is buy a clock. I used to be one of these guys that sort of did it by my watch, and, next thing you know, I said a lot of 10 minutes or something. Next thing you know, we're 20 minutes into it. And it's been the best investment. I probably bought a clock probably in 2000 and about 3 or 4. I started buying one of those clocks for practice with the horn and 5-minute periods. And it made me a better football coach. It made my assistant coaches better coaches. And it made my players, move and know that horn going off usually meant we were going to move around on the practice field and change periods or whatever was going on. But buying a clock was one of the biggest things. If you don't do anything else, buy a clock. Be organized and scripted. Everything we do in practices is on a schedule and it's scripted. If we're doing a period, if we're running inside runs, it's scripted. If we're in a team period, it's scripted. Everything we do is organized. And the biggest kick I get is when I have colleges come and watch us practice, and they tell me, they say, Coach, it's just like watching us practice. And that to me is what I want it to be like. I want our high school practice to look like a college practice. So that's what we try to do. It's fast paced, coach on the run. Coach them, but I don't have time after we run a play for my offensive line coach to spend 10 minutes trying to rehash what his offensive line coach or what his offensive lineman just did wrong on the last play. He can talk about that at the end of practice, but he can tell him on the fly. But we're not going to sit there and hold up practice because that just eliminates the kind of reps you get. And also, I'm a big believer in it's a sprint. We don't want it to be a marathon, man. When you're just surviving a marathon, longer is not always better. I'd rather coach high intensity, great instruction, fast paced, and keep it short than to be out there all day thinking you're getting something done when the kids have tuned you out. Tempo, we play fast, we coach fast. Work punt every day. That's another thing. If I can give you a word of wisdom, work on punt every day. It's the one that gets you beat. You can be great at kickoff return and that might help you win, but not being good at punt will get you beat. So I work on that and I assign myself. We usually break up the special teams to our assistant coaches, but we work on punt every day. So on Monday, we do punt. On Tuesday, we'll do punt, kickoff team. On Wednesday, we do punt, kickoff return, PAT field goal. And then on Thursday, we do them all, and we actually work on punt return during defense. So we don't do that when it's sort of a period set aside for itself. But work on punt every day. And I say this with pride. We haven't had a punt block. We might have had 1 or 2 punts blocked in the last 10, 15 years that I've been coaching. So work on it every day, guys. And we've also not had a lot of long punt returns on top of that. Now, practice no more than 2 hours and 30 minutes, sprint, not a marathon. Guys, I'm telling you, the guys that know me will probably think I'm BSing right here, but I'm not. Last fall, and we played in the Eastern Championship game, and 2 years ago, we played in the state championship game. We practiced literally like 8 periods on Monday, which you do the math on that, 8 times 5, you're talking 40 minutes on Monday. We did 14 periods on Tuesday, 16 periods on Wednesday, and then Thursday we did about an hour and 15-minute walkthrough. It is not about how long you're out there. It is about how organized, how structured, and what is the tempo at which you're practicing at. And so I encourage, and I understand if you're just a one-man show, you might have to do more team periods. You may have to be, it may be longer. That's why I said 2 hours and 30 minutes. But if you go past that, you are spinning your wheels because those kids are surviving. They're not paying attention to you. Don't fool yourself. And so just know that longer is not always better. Try to condense it as much as possible. This is a little bit of our schedule, guys. Obviously, we two platoon. When I first went to Jack Britt, we didn't. This is just a sample of organization. Obviously, everybody's schedule is going to be different. I just want to give you an idea of how organized this is. This is one we did 18 periods. This has been a few years ago. This was 2016. I told you we only did 8 this past year on Mondays. Crazy that we've cut it down that much. But this is just typical offensive schedule on a Monday. Here's the offensive scripts. And again, I'm going to click through this fast. This is Monday defensive schedule, how it looked. Literally where we're at, the offense is practicing by itself, defense is practicing by itself. They got their own things going on. We use the JVs as our scout teams for inside and perimeter. Now, when we get to team, the varsity services the varsity. But on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we do inside and perimeter. Let me see if I can pull that up. When it says inside down here, that is against the JVs. Now, team we'd be all together. Now, this is a playoff script, I think. Yeah, it's 11-15. It's a first-round playoff game against New Bern, I think. But just something to think about. I think the nice thing about using the JVs is I use this JV starting defense will come over and be our scout team for inside and perimeter, and the JV defensive coaches are there to run the scout team. Same way, our JV offense will go over and be run inside and perimeter versus our varsity defense. It may not be the greatest look, which is why when we get to actual team, we service each other, varsity on varsity. But I do think it really helps our JVs, one, get a little tougher, but two, you have the JV coaches coaching that period up for you so you don't have to sort of have scout team coaches or waste the defensive coach. You know, you don't want your D-line coach having to go over there and show the cards to the offensive team. If you can have the JV offensive coaches coaching your scout team, you're way better off as far as utilizing your coaches in the best manner possible. Again, I'm just flipping through these fast. I just want you to get the idea of how scripted and organized things are. And I'm sure everybody does this. You know, if somebody wants this PowerPoint later, they can see it. But just the whole idea is to be scripted, guys. Be scripted. All the periods, whether this is a script, this is a offense, a team offense. Here's a perimeter. This is when we're 7-on-7. And again, we're fast paced. We're getting 15 plays in a 12-minute period right there. We're getting 20 plays in, and that's probably a 10 or 15-minute team period. But we are fast paced, up tempo. Let me get through all this. There's just some defensive scripts. All right, here, team building. And we're almost through this, guys. Let players have input about mental issues. Go back, I mentioned that earlier about discipline. Let players decide about things that you don't care about. It really makes them feel important. We do Tuesdays and Friday devotionals. On Tuesdays, we have a church, and it's the same church that's going to feed us on Fridays. We have churches, and I encourage this, guys. We have churches in our community feed our football team on Fridays. And then whoever they want to, their preacher, whoever, gives a short 5-10 minute devotional after we eat on Fridays. We do this on Tuesdays. We bring usually somebody from that same church at the end of practice will come out and do a short talk. And, you know, it may not be even necessarily always Christian based. It may be just somebody in the community. We've had some former football players come and talk. We've had business leaders come and talk. But we do a Tuesday after practice devotional talk or whatever you want to call it. And then we have a Friday devotional with a local church that also feeds our football team. It's also a great way to, you know, cut the price of team meals on Friday. You don't have to pay for a team meal. Your athletic director will love that if you get the churches to do it. And I'm telling you, they want to do it. They'll fight around here, they fight each other for feeding the football team. They love it. Team meals, just thought about that, involve the local churches. That's been big here. Weightlifting competitions, you know, do those. We used to do those a lot when I was at Jack Britt. We have not done those as much since I've come to Scotland, but I do think that fosters sort of, you know, team competitiveness. We've done, and we were going to do this spring, a lifting meet within our own weight room program. Have your kids, you know, buy a couple trophies and split your own players up into sort of weightlifting groups or whatever, and go max out on bench, squat, and clean, and give them a trophy or a certificate or whatever. So compete within your own program even. There's, you know, nothing wrong with that. And then involving the families, we have a kickoff cookout. Say that 10 times real fast. But at the beginning of every year, we have a cookout after our first day of contact. We have like an inter-squad game. And then we invite the families to come. It's hot dogs, it's hamburgers. Our boosters sort of do it for us. And we feed anybody that'll show up. That's also going to pass out a lot of the paperwork that the kids have to get signed, some permissions, stuff, travel forms, whatever it is. And so we do that at this kickoff cookout. And it's been a good thing for us. We have a team dinner, usually the week of our big rivalry game against Richmond County. The boosters will come and feed the football team a steak dinner. And so that's a pretty cool deal. And again, just sort of building this team atmosphere. And then the best thing, and if you don't get nothing else out of this entire speech, and the ones that have hung in here this long and me rambling on, you're going to be glad you did if you just listen to the next part. Summer team competition. Guys, I started this in 2000 but before the 2004 season when I was at Jack Britt. I got this, and I think I got it from Ron Zook when he was at Illinois, I think. Don't fact check me too hard, but I believe he was the one. I know I got it from the University of Illinois. And it basically, what we decided to do is we wanted to do sort of like our winter workouts that you see a lot of the colleges do now. And we wanted to do it during the summer as part of our summer program and, give them another incentive to come out. And it is probably the single best thing that I've done as a head football coach to help find leaders in the program, foster a competitiveness, and just really bring our kids together. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a second, tell you how we do that, but hang in for that one. It's worth it. And then we do, use social media with the whole team building. Put your kids out there, whether they're lifting weights or doing good things. Use social media as much as you can. Obviously, educate your players on the negatives of social media. Make sure they monitor what they have on their Twitter and Facebook accounts, that kind of thing, because the colleges are definitely looking at those things these days. But, use social media to be a positive team-building sort of thing in your program. Now, going back to the summer team competition, here's what we do, guys. We take everybody in the football program, and we divide them up into teams of 8. So divide returning varsity players and reliable JV. So I don't necessarily, not everybody, because we have a draft. We have the BCS draft. And we literally put them out there and we put them in groups. We put bigs in a big group. We put mids in a big group. And then we put our skill guys and it's in a group. And then I get 8 captains. The varsity, the coaches sort of decide who these 8 captains are going to be. And we don't always pick the guys that are necessarily the recognizable leaders. Sometimes you pick a guy that you need to lead. He may not be a leader. He may not be doing the right things all the time. But you'll be surprised if you put that person in a situation to lead, that they end up surprising you with some leadership skills, and they take on the persona of a leader, which is going to help you win football games in the fall. So you divide them up into, you get 8 guys, however you want to choose them. Usually with us, it's seniors. And we let them draft players. The number of players per team is determined by the number of return. But usually we have between 7 and 9 players. We usually have like 3 skill guys, 3 mid guys, and 3 linemen, which would be 9. But you can do it with whatever fits your sort of group of kids you have. We have obviously a lot more players in some schools, but that's sort of what we do, and we draft them. If you do not get picked in the draft, I tell people all the time, one, that tells you something a little bit about yourself, that none of your teammates thought you were worthy enough to be on the team, because part of it's accountability and showing up when we have these competitions, okay? But the other thing is a lot of them might be just young guys that nobody knows about really, and so we tell them to come, and we'll put them in, and sometimes they take the place of kids that can't be there as substitutes, or they just compete against other guys that didn't get picked, and they're still getting to work out and still be a part of it, even though their wins or losses may not count for points. But, you handle that however you want to. We choose the seniors, captain of each team, just talked about that. We balance the team with an equal number of linemen, mids, skill players. And then on Wednesdays, during the summer, we lift on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And then on Wednesday, all we do is team competition. We bring the kids in at 9 a.m. It literally lasts about an hour. And here's what we do. We compete against each other in 9 events, sometimes 8, depends on how we've done it. And we try to develop a 7-week schedule. Now, they shortened our summer with dead periods in North Carolina. So we're lucky if we get to do this for 4 or 5 weeks. But it doesn't matter. All you're using these weeks to do is sort of determine the bracket when you try to pick the champion at the end. I'll explain that a little bit more here in a second. Why do we do it? It helps identify and builds teams leaders. It exposes team cheerleaders. You will find out quickly which one of those guys are front runners, because it takes something when your team's getting beat, and their teams are going to get beat. Some of them get beat bad. Do they start backbiting their teammates? Do they start quitting? Do they start complaining? This absolutely exposes that. It really does, for you to see it and for their teammates to see it. And you get a opportunity to sort of, deal with it now rather than in October whenever you're playing games. It builds competitive spirit. You'll see these kids get after it, especially some of these events are highly competitive. It fosters a never quit attitude. The one thing I tell people, you get a point for winning, okay? But, obviously you don't get anything for losing. But if you quit, even if you're winning and you pull up short of the line, you get nothing for winning. And so it would be like a 0-0. Or let's say you got beat and you quit in the middle of the drill. Now it's 1 and the other guy gets a -1, okay? And so those things, just as never quit, finish every drill, these things help foster that kind of mentality. It encourages sportsmanship and builds team unity. Guys, I tell them, if I hear cuss words, your team loses a point. If I hear you talking trash to the other team, you lose a point. You're just celebrate with your teammates, that's great, but you are not to be talking to the other team. And we have enough problems around here with personal fouls and things like that on Friday nights, despite us doing this, but I do believe this helps prevent some of that as much as you can. Unfortunately, today's culture where that kind of demonstrative play and all this gamesmanship is sort of promoted, it is tough on us coaches to sort of quelch that a little bit, but this helps do that during the summer. It does demand discipline. You have got to, people got to be there. They got to do their jobs. And like I said, holding these kids to this level of accountability really helps. And it's a fun way to get in shape. What I love is the kids love it. They love it. And at the end of it, they're dying. They literally are hands on hips. They are exhausted, but had a great time doing it. Anytime you can get your kids and you fool them into getting in shape, and that's basically what you're doing here. You're tricking them into getting into great shape. The other thing I like about it, and I didn't put this up here, is most of these events are the combine, NFL combine style events, or they're the type of events they're going to do at college camps. So it allows my kids to practice these things before they go on these college campuses and do it for college coaches that might be recruiting. This is just a couple pictures you can see. We look like a bunch of Skittles out there. The tire pull up there, the tire tug of war, that's a great one. You've probably seen that a lot. And you find out who's willing to fight a little bit when you do that one. This one right here, we're doing the shuttle. This one right here, I think we're doing what we used to call a little cone drill or a little star drill where they have to put tennis balls on top of cones. We're doing a sled push, as you can see down here. We also have the big tire that we flip. What we do is whoever wins for the summer, we put their picture in the program. They get a little juice by having their picture in the program. They also get out a little conditioning when we start in August. We have a couple of days that will allow them to get out of the what we call the county fair, which they'll do just about anything, get out of county fair. Most of you guys do those little circuit training things in August. Our kids will do just about anything to get out of that.
Coach, got a question, couple questions here for you.
Go ahead. I've been rambling along, so that'd be great.
Do you think you will also practice on days you have summer competition this year since we were missing spring ball?
We could possibly do that, but we are blessed here that we like I said, we lift on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. We practice after we lift. The way we do it here, we'll lift at 7 a.m. We'll be done by 9. We'll practice till we'll go out about 9:30, practice till 11:30, and then again, because we're a high poverty area, our cafeteria is a soup kitchen during the summer. So our football players get to go eat in the cafeteria after summer workouts, which is a blessing for a lot of our kids. And so, we're practicing 3 days a week during the summer anyway. And a lot of times on Wednesday, we'll do the team competition in the morning, but then we'll go 7-on-7 somewhere that evening. So we're getting some football in. But we could possibly do that. But again, it's the summer. I'm not, 4 days a week during the summer. Maybe we do it because of losing this time, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm just hoping we're getting to do it at all this summer, to be truthful with you. I got a feeling we might be August 1st before we get to even do any of this stuff. So we'll see. Hopefully not.
Are there any team building activities that you have done since you have been separated from your athletes? Any ideas how to connect with your kids during this time?
Yeah, well, I learned how to do this Zoom stuff from this smart guy, Coach G. And I did a Zoom clinic with my skill guys the other day, and we watched film with my quarterback, my wide receivers, and my running back. And we had a little Zoom clinic, and we watched film. So I thought that was a good use of time. And thankfully, Coach G showed me how to do this thing. We haven't really done anything other than keep in contact with the guys. I've been FaceTiming and calling them, and sending out our workout. They have their workout on Canvas, and our kids can access it. And it's sort of an in-home workout, using body weight and things like that. But we haven't done anything yet, per se. Our school is making, obviously they're serious about us not really coming in contact with a lot of people. In fact, we're on spring break this week, if you want to call it spring break. And our school is off limits to students, athletes, anybody. The teachers can't go out there, nobody. So, I don't know. Hopefully we'll get something done. But obviously, as the longer this thing goes, the more I'm going to try to be creative about getting our kids together. So hopefully that answers that.
Yep.
Anything else?
Not right now, Coach.
All right, we'll go around. But anyway, the summer team competition, there's just a couple of pictures from those events. This is a schedule, how it looks, red versus dark blue. Again, if you only get 4 weeks in, that's great. Then what you do is just use the records to make a bracket. And then what we do the week before football starts, we have the BCS championship. And usually I'll do that in the evening so moms and dads can come out there and watch it. And we literally do the, 1 plays 8, 2 plays 6, 3 plays 4, whatever. And we do a bracket. And we like to do it over 2 days because, to be honest with you, if you have to do these things 3 times in a row, you're dead. And so we'll usually do the first 2 rounds on one day and then just do the championship the next day. And again, this has been a great team building thing for us. And I strongly encourage anybody that can implement something like this. T-shirts aren't that expensive, especially when they're just one color. And you may not have seen all we got written on them is team. And literally our local guy does it pretty cheap, $400 or $500 or whatever. We get a bunch of these T-shirts, and the kids, believe it or not, the kids love them. And by the way, if they forget their T-shirt, their team loses a point. So that kind of makes them keep up with their T-shirts all summer because they don't want to come there and already be down 1 point before we ever start. And this is how the score sheets look. You can see. And literally up here, I'll put like week 1, red versus blue, whoever it is, and I'll go RB, RB, RB. And we'll have coaches out there at each of the little stations. And again, the first person goes to go. This guy won for team. Let's say it's red versus blue. Red gets a point. And then you don't have to put 0. We just put 1. But then the second group, second 2 that went, this guy got a point. Then that guy got a point or whatever. Then down to the bottom, you total it up. And then they go to the next drill. And you can just see some of Pro Shuttle, L Cone. We had hoops where they ran around the hoops. The star drill was the one with the tennis balls that you go and put them on cones in a little box. The tire flip. The 60-yard shuttle, we got where we don't do that one as much. The weave drill is basically one like you're doing like a little W back pedal type deal. Then you got the sled push, and then the tire tug of war is what the tire pull is. That's the tire tug of war, and that's the one you want everybody down there watching that. That one you find some guys you didn't know about during that tire pull. Some guys will jump up and you'll be like, man, I didn't realize that kid had that in him. And so that's a good one to bring out that character.
Coach, got a question here for you.
Yep.
Can you discuss what your team does on weekends in season?
All right. In season, very little. One, on Sundays in North Carolina, we are not allowed to meet at all. You cannot, so as far as with the players. So Saturdays, I give our coaches Saturdays off. Now, I say that, but on Saturdays, I'm looking at the films from Friday night. I'm looking at our opponents' film. Huddle's made this so much easier for us to communicate when we're not together. We'll be texting each other. I'll be texting the players even some on a Saturday. Hey, you need to look at this. You need to look at that. But we do not. Now, some teams do this, but we do not bring the team in on Saturdays. Saturday morning, We do have the training table available for our kids to come and see the trainer and get rehab. So they come in, I think it's from 9 to 11 in the morning on Saturdays, that the players can come and get treatment. And then the trainer literally calls me and says, hey, so-and-so came in, so-and-so came in. We got to set them up an appointment to see the orthopedic on Monday, or I think you might need to stay out of practice until Tuesday, or, I sort of get that from our trainer, Doc Z, who's a legend around here. But as far as anything with the players, we do not do anything required on the weekends. Sunday, the coaching staff, we meet at 2 o'clock on Sundays, and the offense and defensive staff sort of meet separately. The defensive coordinator will come in. I'm the offensive sort of coordinator. I'm the head coach, but I tend to spend more of my time on offense. The defensive coach will come in there and say, hey, coach, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of that? But, I kind of trust him to do the job. And so the defense meets in one room, the offense meets in another. We usually, we do have boosters come and feed the coaches at about 5 o'clock. They'll bring something. And we'll eat a little meal together and just get ready for the next week. So it's probably surprising to hear that, but we do not do anything with our players on the weekends, really. And Saturday, I spend a lot of times, I've got a lot of kids playing college football, and I go and try to see them play at least once during their careers. And it's hard when you got, 8, 9, 10 kids playing all over, it seems like. All right. Last thing, and this is the last thing, the 7-point, believe in something. And I don't know how to, say this, but if you're a young coach, find something, man, that you believe in and do it. If you're going to get fired doing something you believe in. I truly believe that is important, that you find something and believe in it. And I there's a bunch of different things. And, create your own culture. I've listened to a bunch of culture speeches. And, I've been doing this 29 years. I can retire June 15th for 6 days. I'm not retiring, but I could. But I've been a head coach for 20 years. And I love culture talks, but everybody's culture is going to be different because not every situation is the same. You're not dealing with the same types of kids. Things that I could do at Jack Britt, I can't necessarily do at Scotland High School. And while I think there's certain things that are just inherently football culture, but I do believe you've got to build your own culture. Find it. What is it that you want your program to look like? What do you want your kids to behave like? And you've got to be willing to sort of develop your culture around that and your beliefs, and to come up with some core values, some axioms, if you will, of your program. But I've had to do some soul searching about culture. I've had a lot more culture issues at Scotland, per se, than I did at Jack. But it's a lot to do with the kids that we're dealing with and the environments that they're coming from. And so I've had to do more culture building, per se. And so create your own culture, man. Go listen to a bunch of great people. Coach G's had a bunch of great people on here talking about culture, and figure out what it is you want your program to look like, and then really just buy into it and get your kids to believe in it and get your coaches to believe in it. One thing I meant to say this earlier, one of the neat things we do, and I think this could be great for building a better school culture and a better relationship with your players and the teachers, is rather than your football players wear those jerseys on Friday, tell them to give them to a school teacher. Mm-hmm. That is something I started at Jack Britt in 2000. When my first year there, we give our jerseys to teachers. And I tell our kids, don't give them to the one you got the A in the class. Give them to the one you're flunking or the one you're not doing great in, because you will be amazed. I get so many emails from our teachers saying, man, I was so touched that Johnny chose me to wear his jersey. And so, those kids, they get to wear that jersey out there on Friday nights. They get to wear it enough. And we do let our kids wear their jerseys the first game of the year. Then after that, I want them to give it to a teacher. And I tell them all the time, I better not see it on a girlfriend. And if it ain't on a teacher, I better not see it at all. And so they all find ways to give it to those teachers, and they've seen the positives of that. So that can help create a good school culture with your faculty, and you'd be surprised how many teachers you can win over doing that. So strongly encourage that.
Coach, got a question here for you.
Yeah, man.
With Zoom being used more recently, do you think it'll take place of Sunday meetings, and pluses and minuses of both?
I do think that I've actually said to myself, man, I should just meet like this all the time. The only thing I did notice is film doesn't run great over Zoom. And maybe that's something I'm doing wrong or seeing, and maybe my internet's not good enough. I do think that could be a little bit of an issue, but as long as your coaches are watching the film and they don't have to necessarily watch the film on Zoom with you, they could be watching it through Huddle on their phones. I do think Zoom clinicking, I think that would be a great tool to be able to meet with your coaching staff. I actually told my wife that I could see us doing that though I do think there's something to be said being in the same room. And, I'll be honest with you, I'm a much better speaker in person than I am talking to this screen right here, probably. And maybe getting my point across a lot better in person than it is through a Zoom clinic type deal. So I do think I can see us doing that, though. I think that's a great tool. That it?
Yeah, he also was wondering if you what would be the positives and negatives you can see coming from it. So I guess you did touch on it with the film.
Well, I think the film, it's a little, it's hard to watch film a little bit. It's a little choppy when you're watching it through Zoom. And also it's like text messaging. You can read a text and you meant to send it one way, but the person didn't take it the way you sent it. Well, I think even though we can see each other through the camera lenses, I think there is something to be said for being in person. Like I told you, our team gets fed by the boosters not our team, but our coaches. Breaking bread with somebody sitting across a table, hammering out ideas. There's something to be said for that. But I do think this concept is a neat concept of just, and I do have a bunch of coaches that work in Fayetteville, which is about 45 minutes from where we're at. And so it would save them having to drive down here and being away from their families a little longer than they maybe want to be on a weekend. Or, football's a grind, especially at Scotland, because the way I do it, or the way we hope we do it, we're going to play until December. And so it can be a grind, as everybody says. And so I think, there's some advantages to it for sure. Moving forward, I only got a couple more things, and we can open up to any questions you want. But don't be a flavor of the week coach. That's the other thing. If I can talk to any young coaches out there, and you don't know how many times that we play people, and they come up with the most ungodly defenses, offenses, and all these things that, look, we've got better players. I hate to say it, at the end of the day, Jimmys and Joes are going to beat those X's and O's a lot of times. And we've been very blessed to have some great players. I feel like we coach our kids well too. But I've seen so many young coaches make the mistake of taking an entire week trying to win a game that they ain't going to win anyway, and just try to change everything about their program just to win one game that they're probably not going to win. And we end up, and I don't want, this sounds disrespectful, but we end up beating them by 40 anyway. And maybe in their minds, it might have been 60 if we hadn't been, if they hadn't changed everything. But I got way more respect for that guy that believes in something. And the way I look at it, they just wasted a week of getting better at the things they do well, trying to win a game they weren't going to win anyway. And so if you're a young coach, man, figure out what it is you want to be great at, and then you work at that and work your butt off at that. And don't get me wrong, be flexible. And I'm not saying, we tweak what we do every week. And especially if we're playing a team that we're pretty evenly matched against, and we might have to come up with a tweak or two to try to gain an advantage. But if you know you're great, you're just outmanned, don't go try to change everything about your program and just waste a week, because you just wasted time to get better to win the game that you should win, or maybe that you could win, which might be the following week. And I don't know if that makes sense what I'm trying to say, but just buy into something, man. If you're an offensive coach, find an offense and get good at it. Get really, really good at it. If you're a defensive coach, be whatever it is and get really good at it. And don't try to be everybody else. And don't try to run everything. And so just don't be the flavor of the week coach, because I'm telling you, I've been around a long time. Those guys usually don't last. They just don't. Do what you do and be who you are. Can't everybody coach the exact same way I'd coach, or can't do the exact same, run the program? That's why it goes back to the culture thing. You got to be you. And every one of us are different. And some of us are more the yellers and screamers and, those kind of guys. And some of us are more the more try to lead by example or through positive reinforcement. I don't know, or some combination of all those things. I don't know. But just Kids can tell it if you're faking it. You've got to be who you are, and don't try to be somebody else. I mean, I can watch all the clinics that I can see a bunch of great coaches, but I can't be those guys. I got to be Richard Bailey, and I want to be the best version of me that I can be. And if I can take some of what Alabama's doing, or some of what, some of the best lessons I learned was when I was coaching at Andrews, North Carolina, a little 1A school, weren't very good, but we played against Murphy High School. And David Gentry, for you guys that are all over the United States, is one of the winningest coaches in the state of North Carolina. He's won like 12 state championships. I learned more getting my butt beat by him than I ever did beating people by 50. You can learn from anybody. Even when you get your butt beat, you can learn. I learned a whole lot of football from Bob Paroli when he was at Douglasburg, and he whooped my rear end a bunch. But I learned, and I didn't try to beat Bob Paroli, but there was something you could learn from him, and I learned from him. And so I just challenge you guys to be sponges, take everything in, but you need to have a filter, and don't try to do everything. You be who you are and do what you do and believe in it. And you're going to have a chance to be successful as a football coach. And remember, God doesn't care how many games you won. He doesn't. And I tell myself this, especially since I've lost 6 state championship games. I'm going to tell you, I don't say this jokingly. Losing 6 state championship games is a humbling experience. And I ain't going to lie to you, I've shed a lot of tears over those 6 state championship losses. And you do a lot of soul searching, and you wonder why you even do this anymore. And, is it worth it to feel like this? And then, obviously I have some friends around me, but coach, you played in 6 of them. But at the end of the day, man, when you're standing in front of that man upstairs, he ain't going to care how many games you won. He's going to care how many lives you saved, how many young men you impacted, how many great fathers did you help build, how many great brothers, husbands. He's going to care about those things way more than how many games you won. So try to make sure when you're winning these football games that you win a few lives along the way. And at the end of the day, you're going to have a rewarding career, and it's going to mean a lot more in that end game than whether or not you won a bunch of state championships or won a bunch of football games. Even though those are nice, and I'd way rather win than lose. But guys, that's about it. That's all I got. Those are 7 things I think if you implement some of those things in your program, I think it can help you be successful.
Absolutely, Coach. I appreciate you jumping on. Does anybody have any questions for Coach? And he just threw his contact information up there. If you want to get in touch with him. Also, Coach, can you just give them your Twitter handle as well? I know a lot of guys have been reaching out to you via Twitter. So
absolutely, I need to. You can tell this is old. It's about before I was even hardly on Twitter. It's Coach Bailey SHS. At Coach Bailey SHS.
So make sure you guys follow along. All that.
Yeah, I don't have any secrets really, and I'll talk ball, talk plays. I'm not one of those kind of guys. If you have something you've seen us do and you want me to talk about how we do it, I'd love to do that as well. But tweet me or email me or whatever you need to do, and I'll be willing to share the PowerPoint or whatever you guys want.
Awesome, Coach. I really appreciate you coming back on, man.
Appreciate you, G. I really do, man. You're doing a great job.
Hey, thank you very much.